Hey friends, Zen Kuna here. I'm going to show you some movements for your hips, your knees, and your ankles. Remember, one of the biological markers is how easily can you get up and down from the ground. And so we want to keep our hips, our knees, and our ankles limber and strong. We want them to be well mobilized so we can do whatever we want to do whenever we want to do it. We're going to start off with a basic hip movement. So if we stand with our feet a little bit wider than hip distance apart, what we're going to do is push one hip over and then push the other hip over. So we're just pushing and pushing. Now when I say pushing, I mean activating the lower body, the legs, and I'm actually pushing with my leg and loading one leg, then I unload that leg and load the opposite leg. So back and forth. Now, you might think, gosh, that's not much of a movement. This is not a program for people that are already or still very athletic and get out and move on a regular basis. This is for people that are beginning who may not have done anything for quite a while. So then the next thing is, let's do a figure eight with our hips. So how do we do a figure eight? Well, rotate one hip forward, load that leg, push that right hip in this case into the back, then push forward at a left diagonal and back, and now back into the right leg, loading the left leg. You can do this with knees bent, which also starts to get the knees activating more, or you can do it with legs straight. Or you can alternate. Now you can bend lower. You can work your way up. All right, so there's figure eight. So we did a side push, and then we did our figure eight. So next, what we're going to do are knee circles. So we'll do knee circles first with our feet fairly close together. You're going to pivot, or you're going to break here at the hips. So right here where your thighs come up, you're just going to push that back. So sit back, put your hands on your knees, fingertips are inside. You're going to push the knees towards each other a little bit and then rotate them, and you're going to come up and down. You don't have to lower too far down. Can you see how you are moving here? So it's 1, 2, and back up. I'm keeping my back nice and straight. Now I'm going to reverse direction. So basically what's happening is the way you're moving your femurs, they're acting like a stirrer, like a spoon in a thick stew. And these movements will start to warm the myofascia around the hips and the knees. All right, so there's knee circles with feet closer together. And we went in two directions. So we can do the same idea with our knees wider apart. So I'm a little wider apart than hip distance. I'm going to sit back. I'm going to put my hands on my knees again with my fingers turned in. And I'm going to, from a little higher position, I'm going to push forward, in, and back. So I'm out, in, and back. you to see it from the side too. So we want a fairly straight back with this. In other words, we don't want to be humped over. We want to be strong here. All right, so that's one direction. So we went out and then in. Now what we're going to do is we're going to start by going in first. So we're going to go in, out, in, out. Good. All right, so there are your basic knee circles with feet close together and with feet wider apart. Now, just standing, feet right underneath our hips. You can rest your hands on your hips, not up on top of your hips, but down here where the femur comes up and then goes into the hip. So we're just going to roll out onto the little toe side of the foot and then to the inside. Little toe side and then big toe side. So alternating back and forth. So stay nice and strong, upright, tall. So think about, you push the earth in and down, then you open the earth up. So we're like opening up, in and down. Opening up, in and down. But you're pushing the earth away in both directions. All right, so then next up, again, it's just a simple, when I say simple, I don't mean easy necessarily, it depends on your balance, going up and down on our toes. So, one of the keys to this is engage your glutes and have your abs working too. So one of the things we teach in Primal Nature Play are the B's. So you want your butt, your belly, and the balls of your feet lined up and working at the same time. So what I mean by that is, if I'm aware of my ball of my feet, butt, and belly, everything stays engaged, then I can go up onto my toes and back down easily enough. Now what we're going to do is also then roll onto the heels. So heels, toes up. We're on the toes, we lift the toes up. On the toes, lift the toes up. From the side, you'll see it more clearly perhaps. So we go up and then lift the toes. Oop, fell back there a little bit. So up, back, up, back, up. So lift the toes, on the toes. Lift the toes, on the toes. Lift the toes, on the toes. All right. So then look, we're going to look at one that I've shown before, this move before, but I haven't referenced it so much for how powerful it is for your pelvis. It's called the pelvic stretcher. Dr. Randolph Stone, who was an osteopath, a chiropractor, a naturopath, acupuncturist, Ayurvedic physician, he was an amazing man. He was one of my mentors. So he created a thing called polarity yoga, and this is one of the moves from it. So you want to take a nice wide stance, and wide, of course, is going to be relative to how you are right now. And the feet are turned out slightly. You're going to push your hips back. Keep your spine in a nice coccyx to crown alignment. Put your hands inside your legs. So your thumbs inside here, and they're pressing on a spleen point on the spleen meridian. And what we're going to do is, using our arms as levers, we're just going to twist and look over the low shoulder. Keep both arms straight, and then back to center. Don't let your shoulders come up. Keep your shoulders pressed down your back, and then twist towards the midline, and back, and twist towards the midline. So this is great for the pelvis. and it's great for the shoulders. It works the spiral line of the myofascia. Now another option is you can also look up when you turn. So instead of having my head looking down towards the ground, I can rotate back and up. All right, so pelvic stretcher added to the mix. Now, if you take these few moves that I just showed you, they're good, basic, standard moves to begin to strengthen ankles, knees, and the hips. This is part one of a series that I'm doing for folks beginning their movement practices. And so these are all done standing. Later on, we'll show getting down to the ground and squatting and lunging and that sort of thing. So take these first ones, have fun exploring them. Don't do too many at a time. Let your body begin to adapt to it. But the key is do it every single day. The other thing is you don't have to do it just once a day. You can do it in the morning when you first wake up, 5 minutes. And later in the day, 5 minutes. Later in the day, 5 minutes. Before you go to bed, 5 minutes. If you did that, you would have had 20 minutes more movement than you usually give yourself. So make it fun, make it creative, make it so rewarding that you come back to do it over and over again.